I never imagined I'd be the kind of man telling a story like this. You always assume things like this happen to someone else, never to you. But here I am. My name isn't important, but what happened to me might just protect your relationship, or even save your life. That may sound dramatic, but give me a few minutes and you'll understand. I was married to Vivian for 8 years. Sounds like a lovely name, doesn't it? She was lovely too, or at least, that's what everyone thought. And for a long time, I believed it as well. From the outside, our life looked flawless. We owned a charming house in the suburbs, drove 2 nice cars, and had thriving careers. She worked in marketing, I was in IT consulting. We were the couple others admired, polished, successful, enviable. But there were signs. There always are, aren't there? At first, they were subtle. Vivian started taking calls in private, stepping outside whenever her phone rang. She said they were confidential client discussions. At the time, that explanation made sense. Then came the late nights at the office, the sudden weekend business trips that seemed to appear out of nowhere. I trusted her, maybe more than I should have. The first real warning sign came when I noticed she'd changed the passcode on her phone. We'd always been open with each other about everything. So when I asked her about it, she became defensive. Told me I was overreacting. That even married people were entitled to personal space. She made me feel like I was the one crossing a line for simply asking. That's when I began noticing the smaller things. The way her face would light up at texts when she thought I wasn't watching. How she'd carry her phone into the bathroom and claim she was just catching up on podcasts. The new outfits she'd sneak into the back of the closet. But even then, I didn't want to face it. You never want to believe something awful about someone you love. Everything unraveled on a Tuesday night in March. I came home early after a client canceled a meeting. As I stepped through the door, I heard her upstairs on a call. I wasn't trying to listen in, our walls are just thin, but the way she was laughing caught my attention. It wasn't her usual laugh. It was softer, personal, intimate. Then I heard something that froze me. Don't worry, baby. It won't be much longer. I've got everything worked out. I couldn't sleep that night. Those words echoed in my head. What exactly did she have planned? What wasn't going to last much longer? That's when I decided I had to find out the truth. Some might judge me for what I did next, but I was desperate. While she was in the shower, I installed a recording app on her phone. I'd memorized her new passcode after watching her enter it a few times when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I felt sick to my stomach doing it, but I needed answers. For 3 weeks, I found nothing suspicious, just regular calls with coworkers, casual chats with her sister, even a few about scheduling a dentist appointment. I nearly deleted the app. I started to believe I really was being paranoid. Then came the recording that shattered everything. It was a Saturday morning. She told me she was heading out to run errands. But as I sat in my car outside the store, I listened through the app and heard her talking to someone named Marcus. I'd never heard that name before. What she said next still gives me chills. She wasn't just cheating. She was preparing to leave me, but with a strategy far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. She was staging false accusations, fabricating claims of domestic violence, photographing self-inflicted bruises, even faking records of police reports she hadn't filed yet. She was building a narrative to portray me as emotionally and financially abusive. She'd been siphoning money from our shared accounts into one I didn't even know existed. And Marcus, he wasn't just her lover, he was her divorce attorney. They'd been planning this for months, methodically scripting the destruction of my life. I sat alone in my car, parked outside the grocery store, listening to the woman I'd built my world with, plot with another man to take it all away. That moment changed everything. I realized the person I'd spent nearly a decade with was a complete stranger. But the part that truly shattered me, I heard her laugh. Marcus asked if she ever felt guilty about what she was doing. Without hesitation, she said, "He's such an idiot. He won't see any of this coming. When I'm finished, he'll be lucky to afford a one-room rental." I saved every single audio file. 2 days later, Vivian sat me down. She was crying, tears rolling down her cheeks as she told me how unhappy she'd been, that she thought we needed time apart. Her performance was so genuine, so full of emotional weight that if I hadn't already uncovered the truth, I might have believed she was just someone falling out of love. But I knew better. She packed her things and moved out the following week. Exactly 2 weeks later, a courier arrived with a thick envelope. Divorce papers. Inside were accusations that took my breath away, claims of emotional manipulation, financial domination, even threats of violence. She requested spousal support, half of everything we owned, and a restraining order to keep me away. My attorney reviewed the documents, brows furrowed. He set them down and sighed. "This is going to be long and expensive," he said. "Cases like this usually boil down to your word against hers. And to be honest, courts often lean in the woman's favor." That's when I mentioned the recordings. He blinked, taken aback. It was like I just handed him the one weapon that could turn the tide. And in many ways I had. We showed up to court on a sticky Thursday morning in June. It was the first time I laid eyes on Marcus in person. Tall, sharply dressed, the type who carries the air of someone who's used to winning. He looked confident, probably expecting a quick and easy victory. Vivian had prepared a full-scale performance. She took the stand and told the court about years of emotional torment. She cried in all the right places, described how she'd felt unsafe, cornered, invisible. Her delivery was flawless. Even with everything I knew, there were moments I found myself questioning what was real. Then came my turn. My lawyer rose and calmly addressed the judge. "Your Honor, we would like to present audio evidence that reveals the plaintiff's testimony is not only misleading, but the product of an intentional deception." Marcus immediately jumped to his feet. "Objection! This is nothing but an attempt to discredit a victim." But the judge allowed it. The first clip played. Vivian's voice, clear and distinct, discussing how she'd been transferring money from our joint accounts into a hidden one. She mentioned exact dates and amounts, details that directly contradicted her claim that I controlled the finances. Marcus' face drained of color. He remained upright and composed, but the shift in his energy was unmistakable. Then came the second clip. Vivian, laughing, mocking me, telling Marcus how clueless I was, bragging about how she planned to leave me penniless. I watched as Marcus leaned over to say something to her, but Vivian didn't move. Her eyes were fixed straight ahead, unmoving, silent. But it was the third recording that tore everything apart. In that clip, Vivian openly described how she'd been fabricating injuries, bruising herself, photographing the evidence, and researching domestic violence shelters to make her lies more convincing. She even admitted to rehearsing how to cry on command in the mirror. The courtroom was deathly still. No movement. No whispers. Just the sound of my wife's voice outlining every calculated step she'd taken to ruin me. As the final recording ended, Marcus slowly rose from his chair and addressed the judge. "Your Honor, I must recuse myself from this case, effective immediately." Without another word, he walked out. Never glanced back. The judge called for a recess. When we returned, Vivian sat alone at the table, no attorney by her side, pale and shaken, hands trembling in her lap. The judge gave her one final opportunity. "Would you like to amend your testimony, Ms. Carter?" Vivian didn't respond. She stared down at her fingers and said nothing. In the end, she walked away with nothing. No spousal support. No settlement. Not even her legal fees covered. The judge was so appalled by the deception, she ordered Vivian to reimburse me for all my court costs. There was talk of criminal charges, perjury, falsification of evidence, but they never materialized. Later, I learned that Marcus had been suspended from practicing law for 6 months. This wasn't the first time he'd assisted a client in manufacturing lies. 3 months after that day in court, our divorce was finalized. I kept the house, the cars, the accounts, everything. Vivian relocated to another state and moved in with her sister. I haven't seen her since. But here's what keeps me up at night. If I hadn't acted when I did, if I hadn't trusted my instincts and gathered the evidence, she would have won. I would have lost everything. My home, my reputation, maybe even my freedom. How many other men has this happened to? How many didn't have proof to defend themselves? I'm not sharing this for pity. I'm sharing it because I learned something no one ever wants to admit. Sometimes, the person lying next to you isn't your partner, they're your greatest threat. And by the time you realize it, the damage might already be done. So trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Speech balloon. If this story struck a chord with you, please tap subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more real-life stories like this. Thumbs up, drop a comment to share your thoughts, or if you've been through something similar. Repeat button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps creators like me continue bringing untold stories to light.